Hello everyone, welcome back to Climax Recaps. At the beginning of the film, we see Paul on a video call with his son, Martin. Martin tells his father that his mother's health is becoming bad again. And she is again talking to her own self. His father replies him, "You don't get worried, I'm coming back to home. Everything will be all fine." On the other side, when Paul's assistant is about to turn room's light off, she sees someone's shadow over there. As she turns the room light on, she finds nobody there. When she turned the light off again, the scary shadow appears again, and this happens many times. Then the assistant feels as if shadow has come very closer to her, which scares her a lot. She comes to Paul and tells him that someone is there, but Paul is busy at the call and pays no attention to her. And he asks her to go home. While going home, she says, "Be careful, Paul," and leaves. When Paul is about to leave for home, he sees the same scary shadow, and the scary shadow comes closer to him slowly. Paul tries to escape from there so as to save his life, but he gets attacked by her and gets wounded by her deep claws. Then she appears in front of Paul, who realizes that she can only appear in darkness. Because this was true that she couldn't appear in light. Paul runs away towards his office, and all the lights are gone now. Then someone tries to open the office door, but the door gets open, no one appears. At the same time, someone drags Paul away from backside and throws him outside after killing him. Time passes by and Martin is shown, who is going for a sleep. He hears some voices, and when checks he sees her mother talking to some in dark. When Martin's mother Sophie sees him, she says, "We scared you." Martin wonders and gets scared. Because there is no one out there except her mother, then whom she was conversating with. Martin come back to his room for sleeping, and as he looks back to her mother, he sees scary claws of some species. Martin gets frightened again and runs towards his room. When Martin's is back to his bed, someone tries to open his room and Martin's couldn't sleep as he is frightened. Next morning, Martin falls asleep at the school, so the child welfare people first try to contact Sophie. But they couldn't contact Sophie, so they call upon Martin's stepsister Rebecca. Martin's and Rebecca are from the same mother. Then school teacher tells her that he fell asleep as he came to school. And he was sleeping thrice in this week. Rebecca takes Martin along with her to Mother Sophie's home. Then Rebecca inquires Martin whether their mother meets someone or not. Martin replies that mother only meet with Diana and talks to her in alone. Rebecca becomes surprised after listening to him and says that there is no one like Diana. Rebecca and her mother had a little fight. When Martin returns from his room after packing, he looks into his mother's room, and the terrifying shadow appears. Rebecca asks Sophie for taking Martin to her own home for some days. Sophie cries listening to her. Sophie tries to stop them both, but Rebecca never listens to her, and Martin follows Rebecca as he is frightened. At night, Rebecca wakes up suddenly and finds Martin is not lying next to her, and she listens scratching noise near the door. Rebecca thinks as if Martin is scratching. She finds light outside, which becomes on and off instantly. Rebecca then sees that scary shadow. Before the light gets off again, Rebecca runs and turns the light on. Rebecca goes to washroom, where she finds Martin sleeping in the bathtub holding torch on along with him while sleeping. Next morning, child welfare lady arrives and takes Martin along with her because as per law, Sophie is guardian of Martin. Rebecca looks into the place where Devil's shadow was scratching last night. There she finds her name written along with picture. Rebecca goes to her mother's home along with her friend. She asks her friend to stay down and watch for her mother when she arrives. Rebecca tries to find proof related to Diana, and she finds a box having records of Diana and her mother. Rebecca finds picture of Diana and her mother and comes to know when her mother was young she was admitted in mental hospital, where she met Diana. At that time, Diana had a strange skin disease. She could not appear in sunlight. Her skin starts burning as she is exposed to the sunlight. Her mother and Diana become friends in the same hospital. And people over there started believing that Diana is witch and she dominates over weak people very easily. Even she had possessed her father and forced him to commit suicide. Diana died in hospital during experimental procedure due to intense light. When Rebecca enters her old room, then that witch attacks Diana and locks her inside dark room. Rebecca shouts so loudly that her friends listens to those voices and enters the room. Now due to light, Diana leaves Rebecca and escapes. Rebecca is too much frightened and she leaves the house carrying that box along with her. Then Sophie and Martin are coming back home and Sophie says she wants to spend good time with him, so we all sit together and we'll watch movie. Listening to her mom, Martin frightens up again and says, "Mom, we two only." When they both are watching movies, Sophie turns the lights off, then Diana appears over there which scares Martin very badly. Sophie tells Martin that Diana is her friend and says I kept her separated for so long and now she will live together with us. And when Martin sees Diana he becomes afraid, turns the lights on and runs away, and Diana hits Sophie in anger. Now Martin visits Rebecca, where she tells the story of their mother and Diana to him. Rebecca tells him, we have to save our mother from this witch and we should give her medicine. Because if mother does not take her medications, she becomes mentally weakened, and Diana gains dominance over her. Martin replies he will never let that happen because his father also tried to do so, but Diana killed him. Then the doorbell rings. When Rebecca goes out she finds no one out there. Then a voice comes from inside the room. Diana squeezes Martin inside the dark bed. Rebecca helps him out and drags him and saves Martin. Then Rebecca, along with Martin and her friend Brett, comes to her mother's house. Rebecca talks to her mother of Diana. At first Sophie becomes totally unaware that she doesn't know any Diana. Rebecca shows her mother picture of them. She admit Diana as her friend. During the conversation, they both argue and Sophie leaves for his room in anger. Now Rebecca asks Martin to come along with him, but Martin refuses despite so much danger and says her mother needs him. And I will not leave my mom in such difficult situation. Rebecca and Brett agree to stay there as well. Rebecca turns all the lights on and puts tape on the buttons so that no one could turn them off. Apart from this, they also put extra lights in home. Her mother is shown much worried and she hands over a piece of paper in Rebecca's hands. When Rebecca opens that piece of paper, I need help, was written upon it. Now that is clear that Sophie is in danger and she seeks help from Rebecca in quiet mode. Rebecca tells Martin that they would find some solution to help their mother and everything would be fine after that. At night Diana cuts the powerhouse and darkness prevails everywhere. Rebecca wakes up and becomes frightened seeing darkness everywhere. She goes to the basement so that she could check the fuse and restore the lights. And then Martin also wakes up and becomes afraid of dark. He manages to turn candlelight on and starts searching for Rebecca. Then Diana appears over there and she scares Martin and drags him out, but when Martin shows candlelight Diana leaves him. Martin also follows her sister to the basement who is fixing the fuse box. As they both were in basement, they realize whether sending them to basement was some sort of trap. Diana immediately shuts the basement door closed. Rebecca and Martin knock the door very hard and call Brett for help. Brett approaches there after listening to their voices. While he was trying to open the door, Diana attacks at him. And his torch is blown away. Then Diana is about to kill him. He turns mobile light on and saves himself. Diana attacks him again and breaks his mobile. Brett tries to run outside, but when darkness appears Diana attacks him. Then he turns the car headlights on and saves himself. Brett escapes from there on the same car. During all this happening Sophie wakes up and she understands that Diana is not her friend and she is about to harm her children's. Diana appears again and Sophie asks her to stay away from her children's. Now Diana tries to frighten Sophie. But she is never afraid and says Diana that she needs her, so you better stay away from my children's. When Sophie is about to take her depression medicine, then Diana tries to hit her and her head strikes the table and she becomes unconscious. Here Diana stops her from taking medicine because she will get mentally strong and she won't possess her anymore. On the other hand, both brothers and sisters light a fire in the basement. Martin discovers a UV light over there. Rebecca moves inside with the help of the UV light, so that she may find something useful. There she finds that Diana lives in the same basement because there is always dark out there. And she reads a message written over there by Diana that if she comes between Sophie and her she would kill her. Diana appears again and attacks Rebecca. UV light was not strong enough to scare Diana. Rebecca runs away from there, but Diana holds her hand and suddenly light appears and Diana's skin starts burning. Martin brought that light. Diana leaves them and they both run away from there. They both listen police siren who starts knocking the basement door. That police was being brought up by Brett, comprising of male and female police officer. They pull Rebecca and Martin out of the basement. Diana appears again and attacks the senior policeman to death. Rebecca asks female policeman to us light, but she ignores and Diana kill her also. Rebecca asks Martin to take Brett out of there and she goes in to pick Sophie, but Diana attacks her badly this time. And throws her down and says she would kill her as she killed her father, but Sophie appears over there. Sophie says to Diana, I warned you to stay away from my children's. And she points gun towards Diana and shoots her. Diana says this gun can't harm me and Sophie shoots herself. As Sophie dies, Diana also vanishes away, and here Sophie sacrifices her life for children's. Then more police officers arrive. Rebecca, Brett, and Martin promise to live together indefinitely, and the film concludes here.